What's happening, people? Welcome back to Chelsea Fan TV and welcome back to another episode of the Chelsea Fan TV podcast. Before we get into today's episode, make sure you smash the likes on the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. As always, I'm joined by Lewis. Bro, great to have you on board again. It was a disappointing weekend, to say the least, for Chelsea, as on Graham Potter's return to Brighton, we got hammered 4-1 on a thoroughly depressing afternoon at the Amex. Lewis, we were both there, mate. It was a depressing trip back on the train. It was the depressing time in the stadium. Just an awful afternoon all round. But something like this had probably been coming, you would have to say. In the last three games, obviously Brentford, United, and even Villa to an extent. I know we won, but we hadn't been playing well. And you've had a feeling that a result like this was kind of coming round the corner. I don't mean like a hammering, but a loss was on its way, and you couldn't make it up. It was bound to happen. De Zerbi looking for his first win as Brighton manager, Graham Potter returning, 9 matches unbeaten, and then it all falls apart. And we won't go too much into the game itself, but what disappointed you the most from the performance on Saturday?
I can't pick one thing. I'll be real with you. It was just a car crash from start to finish, from the defense to the attack. I'll leave Kepa out of it because I don't think there's anything more he could have done. But same way, he conceded 3.5, so we can't even praise him too much. There's no player that comes out of that game with their heads held high. Even the substitutes didn't really do much when they came on. In terms of the way we played, we've always started slow, especially in the last few games. And we never really take the game by the scruff of their neck. Maybe you could talk about the Villa game. Fair enough, we had an early lead, but I don't think we dominated in that half. Same thing with Man United. Salzburg we did, but like Salzburg, there is a massive golfing class between the Austrian League and the Premier League. You get given a lot more space against teams like that. And we exposed them because we are a better team than them, a much better team than them. Respect to Salzburg, but it is what it is. The way we've been playing the last few games hasn't been convincing at all. Even throughout the run, I'd been saying that even our best wins had come against either injured teams or teams without a manager. So we never really looked that convincing. And everything came to a head against Brighton. It's just I don't think anyone expected to get pammed like that. But that's what happens when you don't start a game quickly and a team actually makes you pay for it. We should have been 2-0 down before we were even 1-0 down. Thiago Silva saved us with 2 goal line clearances in a minute, and one of them was from his own mistake. Even Silva doesn't come out of this game looking well. So like Silva really didn't look good in that game, and I do think he's being a bit overplayed because he hasn't looked at his best the last few games. United, he's looked a bit out of sorts. Salzburg got caught out for the goal. It's been apparent the last few games. He looks a little bit overplayed. And it's obviously not a question on his ability or anything, but all these defensive injuries are just making more issues in our squad. Cucurella, another example. Should be the last person anyone's going at. Literally, he's just come back from tonsillitis, lost a lot of weight, isn't match sharp, and is still being forced to play because of our defensive injuries. Don't really blame him getting exposed.
No, I mean, I think you could look at it, and I think for me, I don't want to see. I know injuries, have kind of, if we're going to play a 3-5-2, the injuries have kind of force us into using wingers at wing back, unless you wanted to use an aging Azpilicueta or Loftus-Cheek in that right wing back slot, which is not really optimal. I mean, none of those options are optimal at all. But for me, I just don't see how that works, because against Brighton, no disrespect to them, they're a half decent side, but Chelsea shouldn't really be losing to Brighton if we're being perfectly honest with ourselves. And against better sides than Brighton, God forbid what could have even happened to us, because how exposed we were at the pitch. Like Cucurella exposed every time, Chalobah massively exposed, like getting no help from Sterling or Pulisic. I don't want to see it again. Do you want to see that again? Sterling and Pulisic as wing backs? I think that's enough, because even against Salzburg, I know we won and we played some good stuff, but there were times when they were getting in behind there as well. But obviously, Cover and Gallagher were kind of filling in that space. But yeah, the wing backs, I know they're obviously, you've got to offer a lot going forward, but you've also got to track back. And players like Sterling and Pulisic haven't got any defensive qualities at all. And you're not going to expect them to track back and work hard and defend. That's just not what they do. It's not their game. And you wouldn't want them to be doing that either. But at the same time, them not doing that left us massively exposed. So, yeah, for you, that experiment is done.
Finished. Like, at least if we have an injury crisis, play one of them, but not both of them together. Neither of them have defensive awareness. They keep getting exposed in transition. They're wingers, not really wing backs. And I get we played them a bit further forward than a wing back position, but they were still being required to track back, and they're not those sorts of players. And when they do, they're just easy to swat off defensively. Like, they ain't got any strength about them like that. They haven't got the frame for it at all. They have the frame of a winger, not of a fullback, not of a centre back. So it just doesn't work.
Are you surprised? Because I know hindsight's great in that, but are you surprised that, given the defensive injuries we've got, that he didn't set up with a 4 on the weekend against Brighton? Because personally, for me, looking at it, I would have probably gone Silva and Chalobah as a 2 in the middle. I would have played Azpilicueta at right back, and I would have played Chilwell or Cucurella at left back, either or. Have an extra man in midfield, a bit more solidity, and then you're a bit more defensively set up. I think with the 3, with what we've got available, I don't think it was the right formation to go from the start. I personally would have set up with the 4. But I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think we should have gone with a 4 on the weekend? And do you think we should go with a 4 kind of going forwards until the injury problems are sorted?
It all depends on the opposition, because I think we did that because Potter expected it to be a similar game to the Salzburg game, and it really just wasn't. I would rather we go to a 4 because I think our midfield's more stronger. Like, playing that 3 of Gallagher, Loftus-Cheek, and Kovacic just isn't going to work because there's no sitter within that 3. So it all depends on the opposition. But to me, I'm with you where we should be playing a 4 more, but it's not because of the tactical reasons, it's because of all the defensive injuries. You've got so many injuries there, and we're playing 3 centre backs, 2 wing backs, 5 positions. And we're trying to make do with that by putting wingers in those positions, and it's not working. A 4 at the back is just a lot more straightforward, and it would allow us to at least rotate a little bit more.
Yeah, no, I think it's the way forward. Obviously, the manager's going to have his ideas, have his reasons for doing things. But I think, I'm not saying that we should play the 4 every week, but I think it gives us a bit more flexibility if we play the 4 with the options that we've currently got available. But I just wanted to touch on a couple of players before we move on. Raheem Sterling, terrible game at the weekend. I'd probably say worst player on the pitch for Chelsea, but quite comfortably, in my opinion. He's done really well. He did pretty well under Thomas Tuchel. Since Potter's come in, he's not done that well. He obviously scored on Potter's first game in charge at home to Salzburg. Hasn't scored a goal since. I don't think he's scored in 9 consecutive games. A bit of a concern. How worried are you by his form? Because I know he's not doing well, and I can sympathise with the fact that he's been playing as a wing back, which is not optimal to getting the best out of him. But at the same time, when he has featured higher up the pitch, he seems to have lost that little bit of spark, in the final third. He's not really offered anything to this team at all in the last month. I mean, how worried are you by his form?
I feel with Sterling, he really hasn't been good the last few games, and I have wanted him to get dropped as well, but he's also being pushed way too far deep. Like, Sterling at Man City, they have him make runs and get him behind defenses, and they try and make the most out of his positioning and his speed. With us, we're trying to use him as much more of a deep creator. And Sterling has creativity about him, but it's not just his only game. And I feel like we're not utilizing his best assets as well. In the same way, Sterling could be a bit better. Like, just simple take-ons, you could be doing a lot better than you have been doing the last few games. Your touch as well in the box has let you down a little bit more too. But with Sterling, I don't really have too much of a question of his ability. A lot of people have really been gunning on him the last few weeks, and I don't get it. This guy is one of the most prolific goal-scoring wingers in Premier League history. And we're sitting here calling him Timo Werner 2.0. It makes no sense to me, because I would understand this if this was a younger player and we haven't really seen them at their peak. We have seen Raheem Sterling at his peak. We know exactly what he's capable of. People have already forgotten that he was the only forward carrying us through the last few weeks of Tuchel. Or Havertz and Mount were literally on 0 goals and 0 assists. Sterling has quality. We have all seen it. It hasn't been apparent the last few games, and there has been games where he should have been benched as a result of it. But people saying he's the worst signing of the season, all this stuff, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. He's just out of form right now. I don't think this is a question of his ability. In spite of his poor performance against Brighton, he would have had an assist if Gallagher took his shot.
Yeah.
Put on the plate for him. Sterling is really not as bad of a player as people are making him out to be. The problem is, it's the wages. It's a highest earner right now. He's come to Chelsea wanting to be the main man. And the only problem is, Sterling, to me, isn't the main man. He at his best, he shouldn't be. I don't think you rely on him like you would rely on an Eden Hazard, for example, because he's just not that level. Like, he's a quality player. I think if he has better players around him, he looks much better as a result. He's not the sort of player that you build a team around, though. He's a sort of player that you bring in around another player, and then you get the best out of him like that. And the problem is, we're not using him like that. We're trying to use him as the main man.
Yeah, no, I agree. And you could almost argue that, throughout his whole career, has Sterling really ever been the main man? I don't really think he has. You look at that
Only
when he was
that last season at Liverpool.
But you look at him at Liverpool. But if you look at him at Liverpool, though, when he was part of that SAS with Sturridge and Suarez, he wasn't. You wouldn't say he was main man. He was a very big part alongside those two who were outstanding as well in that season. But then you go to City and you're part of the supporting cast, played a big role, of course. But he's never really been the guy in throughout his career. And that's not a criticism of him. He just hasn't been that. He's obviously looking at 27, 28 years of age now in the prime of his career to come to a big club like Chelsea and be the main guy. But I don't think we've got the supporting cast around him or the quality around him to enable him to be the main guy. And I don't know if he's got the sort of the characteristics to be the main guy as well, to take that role on. I think he works, as you said, I think he works better when he's got, all players will look better when they've got better players around him. But I think
his best football's been with Aguero next to him.
Yeah, but this is it. Like, part of me thinks, like, do you know what? How much better can we get? We can obviously get a better Sterling at Chelsea, but ultimately, when you're going from having like the likes of Aguero, De Bruyne around you, and then you're going in and you're playing off a Aubameyang,
surrounded by our team, and this is the thing. That's the perfect thing that you just said. Because I don't know if you've seen this on the timeline a few days ago, but I saw a video of like Raheem Sterling pressing in the first half. And he's telling everyone where to be, where to move. And they're just doing it 5 seconds too late. And Brighton are just passing the ball through us, through our attack into our midfield. Then someone gets the ball back. He's trying to push the ball forward and nobody's in the right position.
Yeah. Do you know what, like, when we weren't going to get, I've said it before, we weren't going to get the City Sterling because we don't have the quality of players around us that he had at City, and we don't play the same way at City. We don't create the same amount of chances as City. We know this, but I do think that he's obviously trying, and that the squad at Chelsea is not bad, but it's like the quality is a step down from City, and I think it takes for Sterling a little bit of adjustment to get used to playing with, no disrespect to the players that we've got, that they're not quite on the level of what City have got. And that's just the reality. And maybe he's struggling to adapt to playing with lesser players again at the moment. I'm not sure, but like the fact is, that we haven't got the quality City have got, and it's going to be difficult for him. And as we said before on it, his frailties are going to be more apparent playing for Chelsea than they are for City. So we just have to hope that he can improve. Potter can get more out of him. But for Sterling to improve, we've got to get better players around him, and we've got to play him actually in his position rather than playing him at a wing back, because he's a sort of guy that, if it's a sustained playing wing back, I wouldn't even be surprised if he said he wanted out, because I think he'd be that sort of guy potentially. But
he's on too good wages to leave. Like, people are saying that's the problem with him, that he's going to be stuck here for 5 years on 300k a week. It was our fault for giving Werner 260.
Yeah.
So
That's
I don't know what they
the
want to
problem. I
say.
mean, 5 years of Sterling could be good. Like it just like it's far too early to be writing off and whatnot. But what is clear is he does have to improve. He has to improve,
Hmm.
and hopefully he does. Sort of moving away from Brian before we get on to Zagreb in midweek. What are your thoughts on kind of Graham Potter overall? Because I'm seeing a lot of stuff on Twitter on the timeline. You know, people saying a job's too big for him. You know, he's got the lineup wrong for the last 3 or 4 games. Like people saying that we don't know how good he's going to be, or we might not win anything for a few years. All this, thinking like Chelsea needs a bit of a rebuild. Or I'm not saying like a rebuild to the level of sort of going 20 years without a Premier League like Liverpool, or no trophies for 5 years like Man United. I don't think we're in that sort of a terrible situation. But certain fans are wanting instant success and they're wanting the rebuild, and they think the two go together when in reality the two don't. I mean, where do you stand on it all? Because that one loss was a bad loss, but the way people have reacted, it would almost make you think that we hadn't won any of the 10 games that he's been in charge for.
I feel it's the same thing that we always see when, let's say, Conte gets sacked. All the Conte lovers are on Sarri's neck, and when Sarri gets sacked, they're
Yeah.
on Lampard's neck. Same thing with Tuchel until he won the Champions League, and then literally nobody could say anything to him. And now all the Tuchel lovers are on to Potter because they're expecting immediate results similar to Thomas Tuchel, and that's just not going to happen because this squad isn't good enough. It wasn't good enough under Tuchel. People think it's going to be better under Potter. It's not going to be. There's a rebuild that needs to be done. He's already said this is going to take some time. We're in the experimental stage where Graham Potter's figuring out what players work for him, what players don't work for him. He's assessing them and making his own decisions, making mistakes in games too, like the United game, like the Brighton game. I agree. We start with the wrong setup for both of those games, but it's up to Potter to learn from them. And I don't get why people. No one's saying he should be sacked right now, but I don't get why people are on his neck so early when it's clear that even under Tuchel, we were saying he needs time. He needs to build the team in his image. The reason why people aren't being as patient, probably we could say it's because Tuchel's gone. They feel bitter about it, but we could also say it's because we sacked him at the wrong time. He did it in September, and now there's not really a break period where he can get to know his squad. And because Tuchel came in and did such a great job when he came in mid-season, the expectations are the same for Potter. When it just really isn't that realistic. So with Potter, like as a manager, I think his game management's been good. He's known when to change things up and he's seen issues. Substitutions have helped. I think he's done well to get results, especially with how poor the squad's been playing over the last few games. But my point's always been the squad's the problem, not the manager. And I
Yeah.
still stand by that. So I've got no issues with Potter.
No, I've got no issues either. And like people need to realize that you don't build something special in 10 games.
Mm-hmm.
Like you got, I mean, sections of this fan base that are sort of people that wouldn't have put up with, say, Guardiola's first season or Klopp's first season. Mate, Pep in his first season come fourth, didn't win any trophies. Like
Klopp came ninth.
and Klopp, yeah, exactly. And like, could you imagine, right? If we came ninth in our first season under Potter, and I mean, we wouldn't be happy about it, but what
I
people would
can
be saying.
imagine it, sadly. I can imagine it. And
I mean,
yeah, you think you've seen toxic. You
yeah,
don't have to go that far. If we lose to Arsenal on Sunday, you'll see
oh
toxic.
yeah. I mean, just quickly, mate, we sit sixth at the moment in the table. That's not great. I know there's a couple more games to go until
it's not even November, bro.
Until the World Cup. That's a little bit concerning. I know we can we can turn that round, but it's not an ideal position to be sitting in, and we really need to head into the World Cup. Really on the back of 2 wins, or certainly no more losses. So hopefully we can head into the World Cup in at least 4th place, or only be like 1 or 2 points off. We don't want to be in a situation where we could be 5-6 points off 4th.
Yeah,
heading into the World Cup. But let's move away from the Premier League, Champions League on Wednesday night. Zagreb at home. We obviously lost the first leg. Ironically, it was Tuchel's last game in charge. We lost that 1-0. Terrible evening over in Croatia. This game effectively doesn't matter. We've already qualified with top of the group guaranteed, so you could almost do without it. But it's really helpful for us with Arsenal on the weekend because we can rest a whole lot of players that need resting, and essentially they're going to get a week off. What are you expecting from tomorrow night, and who would you like to see get an opportunity that hasn't had that many opportunities recently?
Literally just rotate everybody. They're lucky it's the Arsenal game. I would have said start the whole 11 just out of spite after that Saturday game. But now we got to rotate everybody. So Mendy, I guess. Mendy goes back in.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even blame him if they played Bettinelli because Mendy was so poor in that second half. But if they want to give him a start, go for it. Who knows who we play at right back? Maybe Asby gets a run out. The defense.
We haven't got that many options. I mean,
I don't even know who you bench.
Well, you rest. All right, it's like Silva's not going to play. Then you're going to have to play Chalobah, and you probably have to play. I don't know.
I'd rather rest them though. Like I think it's just
who do we play unless you play the centre backs on the 23s? I mean,
actually, to be fair, as a defender, you don't really do as much running, so I don't mind Chalobah playing. Maybe we do Chalobah and Koulibaly. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully Koulibaly's back, but if he is back, I'll probably go them two in the middle for sure.
Yeah, maybe Chilwell on the left, or
yeah.
I don't even know if there's a youth player you could throw in there.
You could play
Zakaria has to get a start.
Oh, mate, if Zakaria don't start this game, then for sure he's never playing for Chelsea.
Let's go back to Italy, respectfully. If you don't start this game, then what's the point? But him, Chukwuemeka, maybe Gallagher, Broja, Ziyech, and
I would probably play Sterling because I think this could be a good opportunity for him to get some confidence back, grab a couple goals.
Yeah, but also imagine he drops a stinker.
There is that as well. But I mean,
maybe Pulisic.
Yeah, maybe Pulisic as well. Yeah,
start. Just give.
I mean, I don't think he'll start against Arsenal either. Pulisic.
Yeah, so you know what? Just throw Pulisic in there.
Yeah, I mean,
strong enough team to win.
Yeah, I mean, this is these games like it's good. It's great because we can rest players for the weekend for an important game. But the game itself is like it's a bit shit, isn't it? Like it sort of reminds me. Do you remember that under Lampard when I think we lost that last game of the group? I think we played Rostov at home, and we lost like 1-0. It was after we'd beaten Sevilla 4-0. We played that Russian team. It was the year we won it. That's the one, Krasnodar.
Yeah, Krasnodar. Yeah, we drew that one, but we drew that one, didn't we?
The game
was terrible. Tammy had the biggest disaster class in that game. I was like, bro, this is Krasnodar. And you want 120k a week.
Ridiculous. What sort of game are you expecting? I mean, obviously, of course, I'll watch it and that, but I'm not really looking forward to it that much. I've got to be honest.
Play well, bang a couple goals, and watch this. This will probably be the most clinical Chelsea team we've seen all season. Yeah, play well, get a win, rotate where necessary. I'd have no expectations for this game. I'm actually just looking forward to enjoying it. I hope I can enjoy it. But
to be fair,
Chelsea ain't been like that recently.
No, it's not. It hasn't been that enjoyable recently. But I mean, I think it's a good opportunity for us to see some of the players that we don't see as often that should get more minutes. Like they say, Broja would be exciting to see him to start. I really want to see Zakaria. I know we touched on it just before, but I just want to see what this guy can do. Like even if we send him back in January, or if he goes back at the end of the season or whatever, we don't exercise the option to buy, which we obviously won't. But I just want to see what he can do because he's a good player, and there's no point signing him on loan and then not using him at all. We might as well see what he can do. So I would like to see him get some minutes, but I think the one I'm most excited about is Chukwuemeka. I mean, he's had a couple of impressive cameos off the bench, and I think this would be a really good game for him to start in. But I would expect him to start in there, and I'm excited to see what he can do. I mean, you got anyone you're particularly looking forward to seeing at all? You think should get an opportunity?
Chukwuemeka, Broja, Zakaria, just anyone who we haven't seen for a while.
Yeah. I mean, it's a real shame that Amari Hutchinson is not eligible to play, because it would have been great to see him. But as
He
we were
probably would have
discussing,
got some bench minutes.
yeah, I mean, as we were discussing beforehand, though, like, it's important not to gas these guys up too much, because the step up from youth team football or junior football, reserve football, whatever you want to call it, to first team senior football, mate, it's so big. You can tear it up in youth teams in 21s, 23s, PL2, but when you get to the first team in the Premier League, the level is so different. So, it's like these guys, some of these guys might go on and be great, and Hutchinson could go on and be really good, but it's important not to overhype these players. Just because you look good in the youth team or whatever, it doesn't mean you're going to be good in the first team. So I think we just got to calm it down a little bit on expectations on young players that look good. But I mean, do you like what you've seen of Hutchinson in the 21s and whatnot, from what you've seen? He looks good.
Yeah, well, it looks decent. Couple nice little goals. Already has a nice little comp and everything. But yeah, it looks impressive. Looks impressive. Need to see more of him, but guess that's why he was Arsenal's big prodigy before he got sniped. But yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, I think got him on a free, which is always quite nice. But we might as well round out quickly with a score prediction then for the Zagreb game. Obviously, it could be tricky because there's going to be a lot of changes. Probably a lot of guys that haven't played much together. But what were you thinking prediction wise for Wednesday?
Just go 2-0, Broja double.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm feeling confident. I'm hopeful that we can smash a few. I'd like to see a few goals. I want to go with a 4-1 win. I mean, I could be miles off here, but I'm just going to go with it. I'm going to go 4-1 win. Oh, yeah, Breyer to get a couple, maybe Chukwuemeka to score, and maybe Ziyech might get a goal as well. We'll go with that, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, seems like a good point to round out the episode, guys. Again, please make sure you smash the likes on your way out of this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And we will catch you again in another episode soon. So take care and up the Chelsea.